What's up guys, this is Wences. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about creating an epic life on your terms. And today we're talking about INFJs and isolation, how to thrive during the self-quarantine time. And no matter where you're at in the world, if you watch the news or not, we all know what's going on around the world. And I'm in Madrid, Spain, so we've been in a red zone for a while now. We've been on lockdown for the last 5 days. And by the time you watch this, it will have been 10 days. And I decided early on to take full control of my state because if we don't, we start worrying. Our anxiety goes up. And there's just so much we can do. We isolate, we make sure we have enough to eat, but then it's time to focus on something that will improve your life, that will help you to turn your visions into reality. And now, since we have to be at home, we can use this time in the most effective way because if we don't focus on something actively, our mind will go back into default mode. And that is to worry. That is to keep on watching the news when in the end, we can't do anything about it. This is outside of our control. So what is in our control? Specifically for INFJs, there are a couple of things that I find very important that I want to share with you so you can use this time to the best of your ability. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step and work with me privately or join the bootcamp, you find all the information in the description below. Since we're isolated, we really get to tap into what is most important for us that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be aware of because there's so much noise going around. So use that time wisely. Yes, it's okay to numb ourselves out here and there, to watch maybe a funny movie so our thoughts don't go into a negative spiral. But every day you get to challenge yourself and to ask yourself, how am I going to use this day so in the end of this day, I will be proud of myself. To make it more tangible for you, I will be using the 5 pillars to an epic life approach, but quarantine edition. So we're really gonna talk about each of the pillars and how you can use that time specifically for each of them and to optimize them to design that life of your dreams. So let's talk about pillar 1, physical energy management. The things that are most important here, we are already taken care of, which is our health. We're trying everything to not only protect ourselves, but also others by really staying at home as much as we can. But particularly now, for INFJs in this isolation period, I want to focus on decluttering and on visualization and meditation. So the first thing is decluttering. Now that we do have the time, we get to declutter our house. It really makes a huge difference because if you believe it or not, the more clutter you have in your house, the less your mind knows what it wants. This really is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. The more cluttered your mind is, the more cluttered your home is. At the same time, if you start decluttering your house, your home, you'll see how you will get more structure in your mind. This is not some esoteric fairy tale. This really works because the moment you step into a decluttered home or an environment, your mind has to see all the clutter that has been going on. Most of the time, we create that clutter in our life in order to be oblivious to what goes on in our mind. We as INFJs, we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of things we absorb, and all of this is floating around in our mind and is keeping us from seeing that direction that is right for us. So once you have that time to really declutter your house, start doing it and start doing it in small doses because most of the time we won't be able to make it all happen. And this is not just from a time aspect, it really is that we would be too overwhelmed with seeing everything that goes on in our mind. We want to protect ourselves. Our mind wants to protect ourselves. So what does it do? It really finds a reason for us not to declutter too much. But if you say, I start with this room or I start with this cupboard, you will see amazing results. The next thing is meditation and visualization. And I want to talk to you today specifically about visualization because I don't see a lot of people talking about it. I've had clients of mine approach me about this, and so I want to take it a step deeper. Visualization, specifically visualization meditations, help you to visualize where you want to be. There are a lot of guided meditations on visualization that you can find on YouTube where you, for example, meet your future self in 5 years and you have a conversation and that version of you tells you what you need to do or what you don't need to worry about. And the thing that most of us don't do is that we don't imagine where we want to be. We think that we as INFJs have these great visions, that we don't have to work on this because our biggest biggest concern is putting those things into action. But that's not necessarily the case. We too have to be very aware of what we visualize. Just because we're able to be very much in the future, to know exactly what's going to happen when we take those certain steps, that doesn't mean that we're looking in the right direction. We have to decide where we want to be, who we want to be, what we want to be doing, and how we want to show up in the world. And if you don't start visualizing that, there's no way your intuition can help you to anchor that into your system so much that you feel like this has already happened. Because that's the way to make things a reality. And now that we're in isolation, it gives us this opportunity to focus on this. We get to unplug from the world. So now is the time to work on this visualization, to anchor it in, to make it be part of you. Because once you do, once you know that this is the future that's going to happen, you automatically are going to take the steps to make it happen in the real world. Pillar number 2, relationship management. So you might think, what does relationship management have to do with isolation? This is the time where we should self-isolate and there should be social distancing, but don't take it so literal. Just because you're not going to meet people in the real world, it doesn't mean that first off, we can't connect with people online. And second of all, it doesn't mean that we don't get to reevaluate all the relationships we do have. Starting with the second point, imagine this. If you're surrounded by coworkers that you never like, that never respect you, that make you feel like you're in the small box and you don't get to live out your whole truth. The moment you start staying at home, you'll be able to see the difference that much clearer, because now for longer periods than you're mostly used to, you get to be yourself. You get to see what isn't working because the difference is so evident. So now really look into all of your relationships. Look at your work relationships. What are the dynamics that are going on in there are not acceptable for you? How are you going to change that when you go back? Is it that you're going to start being more assertive and that you're going to tell people if they don't act in a way that makes you feel good? Is it that you say, no matter what, with those colleagues, there's just no way I get to be who I want to be. I tried it all. Now I'm going to take the next step and I'm going to apply for something else. Or you can recognize that you haven't put your step forward, and because of that, you don't get to have the relationships that you want, that really make you feel like you're being seen and you're being heard, because you're hiding this part of you. So once you're at home for a longer time, you'll be aware of what you have to give up once you start going out into the real world again. Once it all starts again, you are going to become so sensitive to everything that you have to endure once you're back at your job, for example. But this is the thing. We are putting those pressures on ourselves. We are deciding that we have to adjust ourselves. We're deciding that we have to keep that part of us hidden because otherwise it's not going to be accepted. But once you say to yourself, the way I am when I'm by myself, this is how I like myself, and this is how I'm gonna go into the world. I'm allowed to be exactly how I am right now. And if I act like this at work and people don't like this, this is their problem. What are people going to do? Are they gonna fire you because you are your own person and you live and you dream and you think the way you do? No, they won't. They have to accept you just as you accept them. And it's about time we build that core like nothing else, and we're not willing to sacrifice it for anybody. That being said, let's talk a little bit more about connections online. See, as I've told you, I've been working full-time from home for the last 2 years, so most of my connections happen online. I not only create those videos, I talk to my clients through video conferences, I do the boot camp, I write with you, and I get so many of my needs met through an online connection. I can honestly tell you, it gives you so much. We as INFJs, we are a community. We have particular traits that are not that common in, let's say, our surrounding and the neighbors and our friends. It really is a rare personality type, but that doesn't mean that we don't get to connect with people online that are like-minded to us, and they don't have to be INFJs. It could just be on topics that matter to us. So for example, let's say you want to get fit. There's so many great Facebook groups that you could join that motivate each other, where it's about people that really go through the same journey you're going going through. And there are so many different aspects to this and interests. No matter what it is, I can guarantee you there's a group for it or there's a forum for it. And of course, there are going to be people who are not kind, but I don't see that. I have made it a point that I'm only going to join groups and forums where people are kind to each other. That's why this community is so welcoming. That's why the communities I'm a part of and the groups that I really take on are the same way. You can find them for yourself and then push yourself to express yourself. Most of us feel isolated because we don't share parts of ourselves. And we may even feel hesitant to just answer a comment that you get on a group or to start a new thread. But make it a point to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Because one thing that we're going to recognize when we're self-isolated for a longer time is that it's not the isolation that makes us feel alone. We weren't isolated before and we still felt alone and we still didn't make those connections. So now maybe when you're at home, you will recognize this once and for all and understand that if you want to have better connections, if you want to feel like part of a group, if you want to feel understood, if you don't want to feel alone, step out of your comfort zone and start conversations with people online. Pillar number 3, wealth management. Now it's time to really look into your finances. Some of us are really going to be affected by this time that we have to be quarantined. The economy is taking a hit. And if we haven't put ourselves in a position where we don't have to worry about money, then now is the time to really make that change because we don't want this to happen one more time. We don't want to be worried about our finances, where we stand, and how we want to move forward. None of us want to live paycheck by paycheck until the rest of our life. So let's use that time. Look at all the possibilities that you can get tax returns during this time. Make sure that you look into all of the debt that you may have that you wanted to neglect, that you haven't even paid attention to. We need to uncover all of that so we can take control of it. And then to think about, am I really bringing in enough in order to live the life that I want? Not the life that I'm living right now, but the life that I want. And if that is not the case, then what can we do in order to have more income in our life? This is the perfect time to write applications for better jobs where your personal gifts are valued more, where you're being paid for you being you. These things exist everywhere in the world. I'm not saying that there's this ideal job and you just have to find it. What I'm saying is that there's always a job that is better than the current one you have. One where you're being appreciated more. One where your gifts and what you bring to the company is valued more and therefore you get a better salary. Or it could also be that you say, I'm gonna start doing something on the side. I'm gonna bring value through something I create. I will take full control of the wealth that is in my possession. During isolation, put some time aside to only look into this. Finances and money is something that most people really neglect. They don't want to look at it. And I remember I used to be like this as well, but I understood that I have to do the uncomfortable thing, that I have to get myself outside of my comfort zone. I was willing to look at the things that maybe weren't perfect because as long as I'm hiding from them, as long as I'm not looking at them straight on, I'm not taking responsibility of making them better. Stop judging yourself for what you've done in the past, how you've gotten so far. Forgive yourself and take the measurements to make it better. Pillar number 4, vocation. Vocation is about how you show up in the world, how you share your gift, how you're being seen, and the combination of all of it. Vocation is who we want to be in this world. And I personally have used the system for a long time when it comes to figuring out what my clients want to do in their life, what I wanted to do with my life, because in the end, vocation is not something you know today if you just think about it for 5 minutes. It also isn't going to come to mind if you think about it for 10 days. What's going to happen is that you know what is the next step to take in order to lean into my vocation. In order to narrow down the next step in creating your vocation, there are 3 questions you need to ask yourself. Question number 1, how do you want to be seen? What do you want people to think of when they think of you? And think of it from the very selfish perspective you could think of, because we need this. This is how we want ourselves to be mirrored back through the world. Do you want to be somebody that people want to go to for advice because you have great insight? Or are you somebody who wants to entertain others? Do you want to help people to see the world in a better light? Or maybe you're a scholar and scholars want to accumulate knowledge. A great way to really get a better perspective of this is to look into the archetypes. Just Google it online. I personally work best with the archetype of a increase this. But no matter what kind of archetype fits best to you, it's a reference point. It helps you to determine the next step. Once you know how you want other people to see you, we get to incorporate that in the way we want to serve others. And this is where we get to the second question. How do you want to serve in the world? What is the thing that you love to do most? What is the thing that you probably do already? You just haven't utilized it in a way that brings you more income, that helps you to generate more energy, that helps you to help other people even more. What is that? Maybe you have these great ideas of how you could save the environment, but nowadays you just keep telling your friends who don't want to listen to you, you feel frustrated, and the cycle repeats itself and you don't feel like you're moving forward. But still, your gift and what you love to do is to save the environment. It's the thing that you know most about. It's the thing that you want to learn more just because it makes you feel good to know more about this so you can help others and reveal what's been going on behind the scenes. It's really important to think about this very specifically because I can guarantee you that you're already doing it. So if you're somebody who wants to make the environment better, but what you do is you keep telling the same stories over and over again to people who don't want to listen to it, you're subconsciously telling them it doesn't really matter if you do something about it because I'm not really doing anything about it. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And it's time to step out of that. So once you understand how you want to be seen in the world and you understand how you want to serve, you get to create the sweet spot of how do I get to serve in the world on a bigger scale. I get to play big where I get people to see me for the way I want to see, and I'm going to bring the service of what I love to do most. Because trust me, if you start putting it into the world, at some point people will start coming closer to you because you're not waiting for them to give you validation. You're doing this because this is who you are. This is how you want to show up in the world. You want to know that at the end of the day, you're the person who does all of these things. It's not just planning, it's who you really are. And when you show up with that and you keep sharing your message, the people who want to listen to that message will find you. When nowadays there is no way they could because you're not making it a point to share your message over and over again. With that being said, we get to pillar number 5, priority management. There's a huge concept behind priority management and the pillar 5. But today, in this isolation example, I want you to think about all the things that you keep on doing that may be urgent, but aren't important to you? What are some relationships that you felt like you had to stick with because it's part of who you are? Everything else would be unkind. Or maybe you have some tasks that you keep on doing although you don't like to do them just because you feel like that's how it has to be. Maybe there are tasks that you feel like you have to do when in the end they don't bring you any joy. There's so many things going on that we're not even aware of. Things like I have to be active all the time. I have to do 3 different activities every single day. I have to connect with 5 people or I'm just not being a good person. There's always something and we're not aware of it. But now you get to see the difference. Now you get to see the discrepancy between what you're doing now in the self-isolation period and all the other times that have been working on default. No matter what it is, think about what would I be doing this Monday afternoon if it wasn't an isolation period? Who would I talk to? What are the things that are just part of my day-to-day life that I dislike so much, but are something that I feel I have to do? Maybe it's that you have this huge commute that you go on every single day and you don't feel like you have the right to look for a job close by where you could just walk to. Maybe you think this is normal. I live in the city, so of course it takes a long time, but have you really looked for jobs close by? Have you really said no to friendships or relationships that are not bringing you joy? Maybe you're always the sidekick who just gets the mean comments and you still haven't said no to that relationship because you feel like that's the only one I could have. There's so many possibilities, but I can guarantee you we all have things in our life that we prioritize that shouldn't be prioritized. A great way is to ask your question, let me exchange something that is urgent to something that is important. And remember, every single time you want to say yes to something new that you want to take on in your life in order to create epic life of yours, you have to say no to something else. And it could be that you say no to binge watching TV after 10 p.m. It could be that you say no to any kind of relationships that are not helping you be the best person that you are. Or maybe it could be that you say no to a job that makes you do things that really make you feel bad, but you don't feel like you have another choice. What if you had a choice? What would you do? Because trust me, you always have a choice. just gotta take the steps, because you're your biggest enemy and I'm my biggest enemy. And together we can help each other to focus on how to become our best friend. We don't need to put those restrictions on us. I really hope that 5-Pillar Isolation Edition helped you. Remember, if you want to work with me privately or join the bootcamp, you find all the information below. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, watch the video on how to turn INFJ weaknesses into strengths. Like always, guys, I'll wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.